All right, I'm here with Tracy, and today we're going to talk about kombucha. And I'm just going to kind of ask Tracy what is it, and she's going to go through and teach us how to make it. So Tracy, what is kombucha?
Kombucha is a fermented tea full of probiotics, so it's good. You have live homemade probiotics if you're making it at home, but kombucha is a fermented tea.
All right, so tell us the process. Like, how do you even start to make this?
Well, you have to have a culture. It's kind of like with sourdough bread, you have to have a starter culture, and which is what these are. These are starter cultures. It's called a SCOBY, is the acronym for these cultures, which is
symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, a SCOBY.
A SCOBY, yes. So you have to have a SCOBY to start your tea, but you start with sweetened tea. So what I usually do is brew 2 gallons of tea at a time, and that's why I have these big jugs. These will hold two gallons of tea, and it's sweetened tea. And then you add a culture, one of the SCOBYs, and a little bit of leftovers from your last batch, a starter culture, and you let it brew for anywhere from 7 to 14 days to ferment, and the culture eats the sugar that's within the tea, and that's how it feeds and grows, and then in the process it ferments and produces the live probiotics.
All right, so you would brew your tea just in like a big pot on the stove, and then don't you need to let it cool off before you put the SCOBY in there?
Very good, yes. So you because heat will kill your SCOBY. If you put it in the refrigerator or freeze it, it will just go dormant, but heat will absolutely kill your SCOBY. So when you brew your tea, you add your sugar, you put your tea in, let it brew for, sometimes I'll brew my tea overnight. Sometimes it's just a few hours, but you add your sugar, stir it all in, and then, yes, let the water come to room temperature.
All right, and then you would let it sit in this container for anywhere from like 7 to 10 days. And then what's the next step?
So after we go from here, then we bottle it. And I've got some examples of bottles here. This is a swing top bottle, which will be more airtight, or you can recycle your bottles that you buy of kombucha at the grocery store, and you can use the regular white lids, or you can buy these growler lids with this little kind of airlock thing in there, which will make it a little bit more airtight if you want to do that. But so what you'll do is you'll pour the tea into the bottles, and then you'll cap it and leave it sitting on the shelf for another 3 to 5 days, because now that it's capped, the CO2, which will build up and create more carbonation. When it's in here, you've got it covered. It's open to air, so the gases can escape, and the carbonation will build, but not as much as when you cap it.
Yeah, so that's a good point we need to make. So the top of this is open, and you can use like a cloth, or even if you have like a t-shirt, you can cut and just put a rubber band around that. You have to leave this top open when it's brewing so that it can breathe.
Yeah. So the longer you brew it, the more tart that it gets, because the more the SCOBY will eat the sugar. And what can happen then is you end up with vinegar, which I've done before.
And so Tracy said it eats the sugar, so we want to avoid sugar, but the reason why kombucha is okay is because you're pouring sugar in there, but the bacteria and yeast are feeding off that sugar while it's fermenting and it's eating it. All right, so let's go to, so you've bottled it, and now what do we do next?
So
you bottled it to sit there for 3 days.
Right, so I'll bottle it. Now, you can add a flavor to it. You don't want to add a flavor to it while it's brewing, because that could ruin the SCOBY. So you wait until you put it in the bottle, and then if you want any kind of flavor in it, like berries or cucumber or ginger or turmeric or anything that you would think would be a nice flavor for your tea, then you put it in. You put it in the bottle, you pour your tea in, and then you cap it, and then you leave it sitting on the shelf for another couple of days.
All right, and then after the shelf, you move it to the refrigerator.
Yes.
And how long do you leave it in the refrigerator? Just long enough to get cold, or do you let it sit there for a few more days?
No, you just drink it
Okay,
I mean,
so
once it's bottled,
ready
it's bottled, it's ready to go. But if you want more carbonation than not, or if you have added a flavor, the flavor will infuse a little bit better if you've left it for more than just, you know, right away. So you can drink it right away once you've bottled it, but once you put it in the refrigerator, it stops the fermentation. Not stops it, it slows down the fermentation, because the scobies like warmth, and they like a little bit of light, but mostly dark.
And where can you get a SCOBY from?
I have some.
So this is Tracy's SCOBY Hotel. So if you know Tracy, ask her for one. If you want to make your own SCOBY, just go to Kroger or the grocery store and buy some kombucha and let it sit out on the table, and take the lid off and let it sit there, and you'll see one start to grow on top of your kombucha.
Well, really, if you're going to buy it from Kroger, you want to buy the unflavored kind. You don't want any kind of flavor in it at all. And then you add it to some sweetened tea, and then cover it with your cloth and let it sit.
Yeah,
and you can grow. And then and every time you brew tea, it'll grow a new SCOBY, which is why I have so many of them. Because see how this one, the one underneath is the old SCOBY, and then the one on top that's nice and bright is the new SCOBY. So you get a new one every time.
All right, so I hope that's everything you wanted to know about kombucha and SCOBYs.